What is the biggest misconception in this space about short sales? Why people shy away from this and don't really try it?
Here's the number one reason. The same problem for all the real estate agents and the same problem for all the investors who try to do short sales without training, knowledge, or system. My background is engineering. I'm a real big believer in paying for other materials and systems and processes. And then I basically developed my own system out of that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Path of Progress. I'm your host, Alex Kononov, and today's episode is all about short sales, one of the most underrated yet powerful strategies in real estate. Joining me is David Randolph, an investor and short sale expert who consistently flips houses in any real estate market, all because of his ability to negotiate directly with banks. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex, for having me here. I love talking about this topic. It's really a hot topic, and sometimes people don't even know how hot it is.
Some people don't know even what it is. So let's not jump to that yet. Let's start with your journey. How did you start in real estate? Can you share us when it started for you and how did it progress?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was back in that corporate world where I had this job, J-O-B, okay? And I was actually an engineer, so I was actually making pretty good money. But what was happening was I was working 60, 80 hours a week just to be able to do that because I was salaried. And I was climbing up the corporate ladder. I mean, I was making progress. I was being promoted. I had patents, and things like that. And then what happened one day was I went in for my result review with my employer, and they said, "Man, you did this, you did that, you got a patent here, and very good, very good." And then I said, "Great, great. What's my raise? How much raise did I get?" And they said, "Oh, well, there's no raise. You don't get a raise." I'm like, "Oh, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't get a raise? All this stuff you said." "Well, no, but you're getting as much. You're already making as much as the president of our small company. You're getting paid the same as him already." I said, well, good grief. Well, give him a raise. Give him a raise so I can. And anyway, so Alex, what I found out was I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I got to the top, and there was nothing there. It was terrible. Oh my gosh. People are climbing the corporate ladder. There's nothing at the top. I'll tell you right now, climb back down that ladder. I climbed back down that ladder, and I went to a 3-day real estate conference. Okay. And I learned about real estate. Okay. That's how I started out. I went to like a $297 3-day real estate conference, and I fell in love with real estate. And after that, it was just absolutely amazing. That was back in 2009. And so I've been doing real estate ever since then. I left my corporate job. Okay. I'm full-time real estate investor. Give you a little background, I guess, of my experience and what I've done, since 2009 is I basically became a rehabber. So I was someone who learned how to buy houses, fix them up, and sell them. So that was the first skill that I learned. Then the second one was, okay, now how do I buy houses? Okay, and so I learned in 2009, that was a financial crisis. That was the great, recession. And so there was foreclosures everywhere. It was terrible. Families were having a terrible time. So that was my way of buying houses. So I knew how to rehab and I knew how to buy them. And so I started rehabbing like 5 to 10 houses a year. And so I always got really good at that. Matter of fact, Alex, all my renovated houses in St. Louis, Missouri here, where I put them up on the MLS for sale, listed them, renovated, under $265,000 and less. Every single one of those sold in 7 days or less, at list price or higher, for now 15 years, okay? So they are drop dead gorgeous, but Alex, I got this unfair advantage we're going to talk about today. I'm making, now this is me personally, not you or anybody else, so to speak, but I can only speak for me. I'm personally making in my company $50,000 to $150,000 gross profit. Now I say gross profit because I want to be FTC compliant and understand that in any business you've got a cost for paper and computers and lots of other stuff. But basically on each house, each like $250,000 house, I was making $50,000 to $150,000 profit. Okay. And so that's the cool part there. Okay. Not selling them fast, but, making that kind of profit. Well, how was I doing that? Okay. Well, my method, Alex, for the whole 15 years was to buy those as what's called a short sale. Okay. So this was not with a real estate agent. This is not on the MLS. This is me working with the family to stop the foreclosure date and then negotiating directly with the bank. Okay, directly with the bank. Now I'm still buying the house to the homeowner, so it's not like I have a bank contact. So, kind of said a little bit about that. And I want to clarify that this is not me in the bank. This is me and the homeowner reaching out to me and then authorizing me to speak to the bank. And then I'm really good at negotiating with the bank, processing that short sale and doing that system. Over time, over the past 15 years, I became a hard money lender. Okay. So I've got over $3.5 million in cash in my IRAs, my retirement accounts, but I'm not retired. So my heart is to lend it out to new rehabbers. Okay. So I will lend them. My lending's kind of special, that I've done for 12 years now. And that is I'll give you the money to buy it, the money to fix it, the money for the points, and the money for the monthly interest payments. You need $0. You don't need any credit check, no tax returns. No, there's a whole lot of stuff that comes with that. Matter of fact, I've got a 4-page lending document. If your viewers want to get a copy of that later, we can certainly make that available because I lend across the United States. From there, Alex, I moved into the final phase of where I'm at now. About 5 years ago, really big people out there in the industry said to me, "Hey, Dave, you need to start teaching other people how to do what you do in short sales. You need to start teaching that." So, Alex, I did start teaching other people how to do short sales about 5 years ago. And so that was very exciting, for me. I've got students across the United States. Matter of fact, I actually developed an online education portal that teaches you A to Z how to do the whole entire short sale process from beginning to end, with somebody that's got a foreclosure date. And we'll talk about that later of how do you find those people. But I came out with that, 4 years ago, and I've actually had 400 people buy that online course. And this is what's neat, Alex. I'm actually proud of this. Okay. As an investor who's kind of become part of an educator, right? I'm not a very good educator because I'm a regular guy, but I'm an investor teaching other people. Out of those 400 sales, I've only had 5 people ask for their money back. 5, that's it. That's like in the education space, really phenomenal because most people want their money back, right? Well,
This is a
only 5.
success story for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. So I kind of grew from there. Then I had a Facebook group, okay, a private Facebook group that the banks can't see, and I've got like 150 plus people, in there, and it's a monthly group coaching session, and then I did do a one-on-one coaching, from there, and that's kind of where I'm at today is doing that, helping people all across the United States be able to be successful like I've been, helping families out while making a lot of money for their self, for their family. That's kind of
I
my
love
general
it.
background.
You oh, really, you went a full cycle. You just went from experience, you started doing flips, you learned these new tricks and your real estate strategies. You went to lending, you mastered that, and then, hey, let's become mentor, right? Let's become a mentor. So you started mentorship programs to teach people what you already learned over the years of your experience since 2009. So you lived through a crisis, so real estate bumps, and now you know how to react on any of the markets, on a high, on a low. You just doing what you know the best, and now you have ability to share it with other people through your platform or through your educational portals. I love it. But David, let's rewind a little bit. Let's come back to the short sale, to your first deal in short sale. How hard was it for you to start a short sale? Did you start right away short sale as a strategy, or you started flipping like everyone else? Like you buying one house from MLS, you flipped it, and then, hey, how can I improve the process? What was your first steps in that direction?
Alex, my very first house was a short sale. And the reason is back in 2009, there was a foreclosure tidal wave. You couldn't really buy anything off the MLS, to be honest with you, because everything was a foreclosure. Okay, there were no buyers out there and the banks were desperate. So I wanted to help my wife and I, we did this together. We wanted to help families out because in the news, remember robo signing and the giant crisis and all that kind of stuff was very prevalent. And so we said, how can we come into real estate and find a way to buy houses and help people out? Well, a short sale is a way we're able to come in and stop a foreclosure stop that family from being kicked out of their house, okay? Be able to keep them in the house for a while, be able to negotiate with the bank to get a price that's reasonable, okay, on that house. See, the homeowner couldn't do anything on their own because they didn't know what a short sale was. They didn't know how to handle it or how to process it. And so for us, this was what we did the very first short sale. Now, my first one, how did it go and how did I do it? Well, look, I'm a real, my background is engineering, right? Okay. And I'm a real big believer in paying for other materials and systems and processes, right? Engineers do processes and checklists. And so instead of me bumping along, making mistakes and hurting families and messing up families over time, I instead bought this course. I bought this course. I bought that course. I bought all these, short sale courses and materials and things like that. And then I basically developed my own system out of that. This worked here. That didn't work. This worked. I took these and then I just made everything better. So for me, my very first short sale was successful. I made $32,000 on my first one just from, buying a course, okay, and stuff like that. So the key for me really was not reinventing the wheel. Okay, look, just about everything in real estate's already been done by somebody. Why reinvent the wheel? Work with somebody else. Okay, it's already developed the processes and systems, and that's basically what I did. I just improved them and made them better over time. So now my average deal, my quote, average profit's $90,000, not $32,000. It's gone way up over time because I took that system I developed and then improved it over 15 years. And so my first one was actually successful, from the beginning because of the mentoring and training that I reached out to at the time.
Very good. I mean, this is impressive. First deals usually everyone struggling with. You got your strategy and you applied it and you got your proof of concept, and now hey, I want to buy more. I want to utilize more of it. But listen, for those of us, of our listeners, some of our listeners unfamiliar with this short sale terminology, can you break it down exactly what a short sale is and why would banks agree to sell at a discount?
Great. That's a fantastic question. What is a short sale? So if we took, now I'm going to have to do a little disclosure before we go any further. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not even a realtor or a real estate agent. I'm not a financial advisor. Everything that I'm going to be talking about is going to be my own experience, what I've learned over time. This is what I've done. This is what works, for me and for other people. But, it's not going to be tax or legal advice. So when I say something about my entities or different things that I do, you have to go out and seek a professional who will look at your own, own situation with it. And so, just kind of keep that caveat in mind. Now, let's go to the definition of a short sale. Now, okay, second disclosure, okay? This isn't a legal one, but this is kind of a personal one. Okay, so I am an investor. I am going to be talking about, and I teach other people to be the buyer and the negotiator with the bank. This is not for real estate agents who are doing short sales as a flat fee. In other words, real estate agents should make a lot more money than that. They shouldn't be doing, this is personal opinion, they shouldn't be doing all that hard work on a short sale for just some $3,000, $5,000, flat fee to do the short sale. Instead, I teach you to be the buyer on the property and negotiate directly with the bank. Only you care about making that $150,000 profit. Okay, the flat fee company's not going to do that for you. If they did, they would be doing their own short sales for themselves, right? And so with that caveat, I'm going to say a lot of things that are very contrary to normal real estate investors, and you will get probably upset. And certainly throw something in the comment thing when you listen to this recording. If you disagree, I'll be glad to answer your comment and explain why, give you the legal references, give you the articles that might back everything up like that. So feel free to just burn me in the comments area if you want to. But basically, I'm going to start with the simple definition of a short sale. Now, Alex, if we ask 10 real estate investors, hey, what's the simple one sentence definition of a short sale? Almost every one of them would say something like, well, it's when you can't sell the house for more than what it's worth. In other words, the loan is too high and the house value is too low. If they try to sell it, they can't pay off that loan or they can't pay off those debts. And so that's the general definition. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's dead wrong, Alex. That's not the definition. Okay, the definition is this. It's when you miss one house payment. That's the debt. Yes, exactly. Because I cannot do a short sale unless the homeowner, seller, borrower has missed one payment. We can't do one. They have to miss a payment. Okay, so for me, my definition has become you miss one house payment and then I can do a short sale. Now you're going to say, Dave, but what about equity and what about the value of the property and all that kind of, mumbo jumbo stuff? Well, look, let me back it up with some statistics. Okay. Black Knight, okay, which was bought out by a company called ICE. They're a data mortgage statistic company. They do mortgage data statistics across the country. They did a study, a 30-year study of all the foreclosures in this country. Okay, over 30 years, they took all those people that had 40% equity, 40%. They could have snapped their fingers and sold their house on the MLS instantly, but yet 1/3, 30% of those people went to foreclosure anyway. Alex, you weren't there. I wasn't there. We weren't there to help that family out. They went to foreclosure anyway. That is your short sale, Alex. That's the people we want to reach out to. That's the people that we want to help. So for me, that's a short sale. You miss one house payment. So there's my fun definition I like to give. Sharing this with other people to get their attention. Okay, that it's not about equity. It's irrelevant what the house is worth from the perspective of whose opinion determines the value of the home. If I'm a rehabber and I'm listing it for sale, I want a really high price. But the buyer comes along with an agent and says, well, we want to pay a really low price. Well, what do you mean? What is the house really worth? Well, nobody really knows, right? Okay, they really don't know. And so there's a lot of definitions of equity and things like that. And so, that becomes a secondary factor on it and stuff. So that's your definition of a short sale. Was there something else that you were going to ask about or besides that or?
Yeah, so I understand that part, but why would the bank sell it cheaper, right? And how you define equity with the bank? How do you talk to the bank and say, listen, this is what it happens? Because if they know there is some equity, if the bank knows, right, they might want to sell this property, or is it not the process that would go for?
Okay, well, so yeah, that's a great question. So the banks, how do I explain this? The banks are like a distressed homeowner. Okay, now let's just do this. Let's start real basic. All real estate investors. Any real estate investor listening to this video podcast right now, have you ever bought a house and then made money on it? If you did, why did that happen? Why didn't the seller do what you did, right? So this is a generic statement, okay, right? And so if you're making money in real estate, how did you do it and why didn't the seller do what you did? So that's a fundamental question you have to answer inside your own head. Now let's put this in perspective. The bank is no different than a distressed seller. They have their own reasons for selling, accepting that loan amount. They've got their own reasons. So let's keep this in mind. Now, with that definition that the bank is a distressed, seller, if you will, a distressed party, okay, with it, the bank is basically looking at, let's see, how do I explain this? The bank is looking at a foreclosure. They're a distressed seller. And so what they're actually doing is looking at that they have this loan to pay off, okay? And they got other
looking at the liability, right? So the bank looking as a liability at this loan, and they would prefer to sell this loan instead of actually going for and risk the liability to continue.
Yes, exactly. So thank you. You get me back on track here because there's several things I want to answer in this, and I'm going to go back to the one here where basically the bank is in a position. Okay, they have a policy. I'm just going to tell you. The banks have a written policy in their company that says that a short sale will get them more money than a foreclosure. That's bank written policy. So when a short sale offer comes to the bank, they have to stop and look at it because their systems and their policies say that's the most money that they will get for that house. If they go to foreclosure, they will get less. That's their written policy. So therefore, when you come in presenting a short sale offer, they're like, oh, kidoki, yahoo, man, we're excited. The bank's excited because that's going to tell them it's better than the path they're going down. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, the second reason that the banks do it are, I don't know if you've had anybody on your podcast talking about fiat currency. Okay, have you heard of fiat currency? Okay, so I'm going to explain it to you. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm going to explain it in the real world terms. Basically, this works like this. You have $1 and you give it to the bank. Okay, you open up a savings account and the bank is allowed to go out and lend out $15 to the general population. That's called fiat currency. It wasn't even their money, okay, that they lent out the Federal Reserve's money, who printed it just because they have a printing press. So they lend this out. Now, Alex, what happens is it all goes backwards in a short sale. When a homeowner misses a payment, okay, when a homeowner becomes in default, okay, it becomes a non-performing note. And that all goes backwards. If that loan is $100,000, the banks have to take $1.5 million off their books. They can't lend out on car loans, home loans, or any other kind of loan. That's a bad deal. They're losing money. They would much rather get, say, $50,000 for that loan because now they can lend out $750,000. Second reason, there's other reasons here, but I'm just going to give a couple. The other reason is they'll get shut down if they have too many of the non-performing notes. You heard of in the past, historically Silicon Valley Bank and those other things. Like if they get too many of these, the FDIC swoops down on them on Friday at 5 o'clock, shuts their doors, locks them out, takes all their toys away, kicks them out of the sandbox, and gives all their assets to another bank. And so banks don't want that to happen. So they don't care that they're taking a loss because it wasn't their loss. So they can get rid of the loan, then they'll do that. So that's a few reasons. There's many others. Okay, that's a few reasons here just to let people understand why did David Randolph buy a house for, or his entity thereof, okay, buy a house for $29,600 in public records and sell it in public records for $275,000, okay? Okay, the banks have their own reasons, okay? And that's just a couple of them.
And just to simplify with the numbers, right? For example, the homeowner have a loan on the balance for 100,000 left over, right? They still has existing loan, and you come into the property, you check in, they missed the payment, and now you're coming in and say, hey, listen, I want to help you out. You're gonna go through the foreclosure, but I'm checking the records and what's the valuations right now in the market with conditions of the property. I can give you maximum 80,000 for it. As they say, but it's not what we owe to the bank. We cannot take it. Say, listen, don't worry, I gotta negotiate directly to the bank. And you go to the bank and you plead your case, basically, why it happened this way and why valuations is lower and why they need to sell it at a discount. Did I understand it correctly as a process behind it?
That's a very shortened version. Let me correct a little bit at the end, okay? The bank is a 600-pound gorilla. They send out their own person to the house, and they forced me in writing to pay $29,600 for the house. They twisted my arm, and they said that's how much I had to pay. Okay, so it's not me. Okay, it's the bank. They come out and they make their own valuation, their own determination at the house with one, sometimes two appraisals, okay, or two BPOs. BPO is a broker price opinion. That means that 600-pound gorilla bank, they were sent out a real estate agent to determine the value because it only cost them $50 and appraiser cost them $400. So, they'll send out a BPO agent or they'll send out an appraiser. But the bank determines the value, and then I just decide if I'm going to accept that or not.
So you just start in the process with the bank, and then bank reignites and say he started the other processes around it, and then he comes back to you with a price, and then you start negotiating, or you just take a leaf kind of deal.
Oh no, I like to negotiate. I really do. The house that I talked about at 29.6, the loan was $204,000 on that house. Okay, and which I'll just say this real quick. People kind of misunderstand this. The amount of the loan is irrelevant to what the bank will accept. The bank doesn't say, well, your loan is this amount, we'll take a percentage of it. That's absolutely not how. You could have a $500,000 loan. It's irrelevant. The bank determines the actual as-is cash value of the property, and whatever that is, that's what they're looking at taking, not any percentage of the loan amount. So I want to kind of get that, straight there with it and stuff. But yeah, we want to dispute with the bank, okay? Because we want to get as low a price as possible. So if they come back the first time with a value that's too high that we don't like, then I have techniques that I've developed to basically go to the bank and say, no, 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 no. Oh, this isn't valid. Oh, no, look at no, you can't do that. No, regulations say, look, that's not the right kind of comp. That's got an in-ground. There's all kinds of things that you do, quote, working with the bank in a dispute process. And I'll do that as long as I can until I get the price down to something that I'm willing to accept. So yes, absolutely, which is another issue. Some people say, how long does a short sale take to do it? I say as long as possible. The longer the better, because that's more time I can dispute and get a lower price. So don't be in a hurry. Okay. I tell people, don't quit your day job. Okay. Keep working at Walmart, until you get like 10 short sales going on and you're rehabbing 10 houses, then quit your job. But, there's not enough work in a short sale to quit your job. Okay. To take your time, you spread out over 3 months, 4 months, 5 months time, and it's only like 20, 30 hours of work. Don't quit. And so you want to do that dispute over and over, until you get an agreement with the bank. And so that's the fun part of short sales.
And when you dispute in this with the bank, do the owners still have to make the payments to the bank, or are they in the process?
Oh, no. See, the homeowners, they stopped making their payments a long time ago, and they have almost no ability to restart their payment back up, okay? And if they do, the bank usually won't accept it because they want them to pay the entire 1 year, 2 year, 3 years of back payments off too, right? And so they're kind of in a pickle where the bank's not even going to start taking some of their payments anyway and stuff. Now, that's good because during the short sale, while you're negotiating, they can take that payment and they can save it up so they can get an apartment or get a car or get an earnest money on a first month's rent or something. So they are usually saving that monthly payment so they can start their life over and be able to move out.
That's nice. But I want to rewind a little bit. You just mentioned interesting case studies that the property had 200,000 loan on it and you negotiate down to 29,000. Did I hear it correctly?
Yeah, 29,600.
Can you please go through this case study? For example, what was this? Can you give us a little more details because its numbers are staggering difference between those.
And I would love to do that, and I will do that. But when you say case studies, people love case studies, and so maybe at the end you can share this with your viewers because I'll give it to them for free. I've got an actual video and slides of 20 case studies. Okay, and completely free for your viewers, because if we do this one case study, they're going to want to know more, and so we don't have all day. So at the end here, I can share that on how to get a video of 20 case studies and the PDF file with it. But that specific one was kind of interesting because it was an older lady who needed to go to like Minnesota or Wisconsin to be with the rest of her family, but she didn't want to leave her house abandoned, okay? She didn't want to just walk away from it. So she's there in the house, waiting for the foreclosure to happen or for, some kind of a, short sale to take place. She's waiting there to get that taken care of. And so I come in and there's a foreclosure date. That's very bad in Missouri and in almost all states because if the foreclosure happens, she's going to owe all the money. It's going to go on her credit report. It's going to be, hurt her, 300 points for 7 years and a lot of bad things. Whereas a short sale is 50 points and 1 year and no deficiency. She never owes any money again. And so she really wanted to do that short sale option. Well, what basically happened in that case study was, she didn't qualify for any kind of loan modification because her husband had a retirement paycheck, but it turned out when he passed away, the monthly check stopped. And so her income was like cut in half. And so she had to leave and she had to go to Minnesota. And so there was no modification that she could do with it. So short sale was the only best option, for her. And so what happened was, my initial offer on that house was $35,000. And the bank came out. So when I first, turned everything in, the bank said they would take $196,000. So they took the loan at $204,000 and they discounted it to $196,000, but they never saw the house, the condition, or anything on it. and stuff. And that's where it's a kind of a problem with some of these flat fee companies. A lot of times they'll come back to you, the investor, and say, hey, you only pay me $3,000, so I'm not going to work, super hard. The bank, they'll let you buy it for $196,000, and you got to go, oh gosh, 275. Okay, maybe I'll do that. Well, no. Okay, look, that the bank must, by regulations, and I know what the regulations are, come inside the house and determine the value. So that's where I was at in that case study. $35,000, offer. Loan for $204,000. Bank saying, well, we'll take $196. I'm saying you have to come see the house. They refused, Alex. They refused to send out an appraiser, and that's regulations that they do it, and they still refused it. And then they said they're going to bring it up for foreclosure again. And I was like, man, they kept telling me to pay for an appraisal. They kept telling me to do the appraisal. And it's like, I'm not going to do the appraisal. First of all, doesn't that sound like putting the fox in the hen house? Why would you pay me to do the appraisal for it? You're supposed to do it, okay? And there's a reason you're supposed to. But for over 3 months, they were pushing me to do that. And of course, the other thing is I don't want to spend money. Okay, I'm not going to spend money on this house. I don't own this house, but I felt really bad for the lady. She needed to go, and they're going to foreclose on her, and it's going to look bad. So I did actually pay for an appraiser. Okay, and he came out and he did an appraisal, and he basically, I think, said it was worth $34,000 or something like that. And so I'm like, oh, cool. The appraisal matched my offer. I'm very excited, right? Okay, I send it all to the bank. I'm hoping for an approval letter. And the bank says, we don't believe it. We're going to do our own appraisal. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. After 3 months of me yelling at you, per regulations, you're supposed to do that. You're now telling me you're going to do that? And you made me pay for one? Okay. So anyway, the bank sends out their own appraisal. Okay. Now the good part is because of that, the foreclosure date is stopped. They send out their own appraiser, and and the appraisal comes back at 25,000. Lower. It comes back lower, Alex, and stuff like that. Now I'm furious. Now I am mad at the bank. And I don't usually get mad at the banks, but I was mad because of what they'd done with this lady who wanted to leave and move on with her life. Look, it's not her fault that home prices dropped. It's not her fault that she didn't have money to take care of the house. The bank made an investment and they blew it and they made a mistake. It's not her fault. And they're causing her all kinds of trouble. She's doing everything she possibly can. She can't sell a house for more than what it's worth, right? And pay the loan off. So therefore she has to do a short sale and doesn't know how, but is using me to step in to help her through that process. So now I'm mad at the bank. And so here I am at like 35,000. The bank's at 25,000. I get mad and I change my offer to $29,600. Okay. Now you're like, wait a minute, how can you do that? Okay. Well, it's real easy. It's an amendment between the buyer and the seller. Okay. And so the seller agreed, and the buyer, quote me, my entity agreed to lower the price, from 34,000 to 29,600. And then I turn that into the bank, and I know the bank's going to accept it because why? It's above the appraisal. Exactly. And I was just mad at the bank. Okay. I was just mad at the bank. Could I just closed on it, like at that price, that higher price? Yeah, I could have, but it's like, no, man, you cost that lady 3 months of time and life. And so I'm going to lower my offer to the real valuation, which is now 25,000, not 35. You should have stuck at the 35, dude. Right. And so anyway, so I closed on that house, and then now basically when I say I sold it for 275, it sounds good and it's funny, and it's actually true because on public records, you can see both those prices. And, if you want to message me in the comments area and ask what was that address, I'll feel free to give you that address. If you put a comment, below the YouTube thing, that's down there or whatever on it, because that's in public records. Now, how did I do that though? There are 4 options when you buy a short sale, Alex. Okay, that $29,600 house, I could have put like $10,000 into it and then rented it out for about $2,500 a month. It was a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 1,500 square foot ranch, next to a golf course, and very nice middle income area. So I could have put 10,000 in it. I could have wholesaled that for like 150,000, real easily, just sold it immediately for 150. Or I could do what I did, which was put 80,000, actually, sorry, $90,000 into it. So I had 120 in it, but I sold it for 275, 120 and sold it for 275. So there you have, you got so many options when you're using the short sale method to buy houses. You got a lot of exit strategies that open up for you in the short sale process. But that's the quick rundown of that, of how that case study worked. There was basically I think that was a conventional loan. Yeah, conventional loan.
What year was that?
Oh, it was a long time ago, probably 2020, maybe 19. I'd have to go back and look and
So
see.
did the price drop that drastically? So you know, or was it completely bad house? It was anything, everything needed to be done in the house.
Well, no,
Why
I did.
comps didn't support the price?
I did a $90,000 rehab. So yes, there was a lot of deferred maintenance. There was a lot of stuff in that house. Absolutely. Yeah. So what short sales do you work on, right? That's a great kind of question you're saying there. Do you do a short sale on houses that need a lot of work? Okay. Well, that makes sense because that's where you get the biggest discount. Does the bank want to take the loan back, own the house and fix it up themselves? Absolutely
Fall
not.
apart.
So for the distressed seller, the distressed bank, okay, that's not what they want to do. And so they could accept, a lower amount. Now, I will tell you this, a little secret, okay? In 2015, I said, wait a minute, I'm going to do a short sale on a pretty house, a house that doesn't look like it really needs any work. Will the bank take a discount on that because they are a distressed seller, right? Will they do that? And so I did a house in 2015 where the house was, the house is only like 6 years old. It had wood floors, granite countertops. Everything was very nice in the house. Everything was very beautiful in it. And I bought that house for $110,000. The bank told me 3 times. They told me they did three appraisals, Alex, and they told me I had to pay $110,000 for that house. Okay. So I bought that house in my entity. When I say I am being relative, entities and other, things like that. You don't buy things in your own personal name ever. Right. But, this house was bought. And so I did finish the basement because I'm a rehabber and I'm not going to sell a house with an unfinished basement. So I did put about 30,000 in it. So I had a 110 plus 30, so I had 140 in it. Okay. And then that house that it was just very beautiful and just 6 years old, okay, on 140, I sold it for $210,000. Okay, 210,000. So short sales on pretty houses work too because the bank has their own reasons behind the scenes. Okay, you're looking at me like I don't believe you. Okay, let me tell you,
No,
I'm going to give you a secret, Alex. Okay, here's a secret. The appraisal is meaningless. Don't ever pay the appraisal. And I'm going to tell this now. We're not. Is there? This is. We're not live, are we? We're not live.
no.
Okay, so I want to make sure there's no drones flying through there because when I'm about to say this, I don't want the drones to zap you and zap me. So be sure not to be in the spot when you release this podcast. I'm going to tell a secret here. Okay, so FHA. Okay, a homeowner with an FHA loan, you're going to do an FHA short sale. Okay, they do an appraisal. Okay, they send out a full appraiser to do a full appraisal. Don't offer the appraisal amount. They will take 88% of the appraisal amount. 88%. Duck. And we just revealed something. Drones are going to shoot at, whatever the government, I don't know where they come from. They were a while back. I remember a while
It's
back.
a very specific number,
Yeah.
88%.
Yeah, shh. Yeah, don't say it too loud. Yeah, no. So my point is, don't offer the bank the appraisal amount. They'll take a net of 88%. So there's a lot of and each loan type is different. Okay, a loan type, and I actually have a free 2-hour workshop free for your people where I go through those loan types and talk about the percentages. On the other types like VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they each have a different percentage on there. So that's that case study. That's how that worked, basically.
No, it's really good. You went right into details. And I think it's important to mention, and if our listeners to notice, whoever noticed, is that in the nice, pretty house that you mentioned, you still did a value add on that part, right? So you had a basement that you finished, and now you have value add. You added maybe square footage if it's legal for the appraiser, but you definitely added some community room downstairs for the family, so it's more desirable for them to pay extra buck, so they can move in and pay a little more for that house, and you just unlocking extra value right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this, but rehabbing brings the most profit in. It really does. You're bringing the most value to subdivisions. You're employing a lot of people. You're bringing up the quality of homes in local areas. And so a rehabber is rewarded for that work versus someone who just wholesales it or someone that might just rent a house out. So yeah, you're right. We always want to bring value add to the situation. But I will say this, let's not forget that even going from a short sale, okay, doing no work to the house, you have brought value on a legal basis. Okay, you have provided clear title. So that is worth money in the financial world. Okay, that is valuable, to have that, because before the short sale, the homeowner had multiple liens, multiple debts, tax liens, federal, state, credit card, all these things encumbering the property. Okay, and that property now was not very valuable. After the short sale, through your work, that you do in the short sale process, the method that I developed, you have removed all of those from the property. And so now that is a clean title and is worth more money to sell that, even like the next day type thing. So let's not forget that aspect. You can quote wholesale short sales. Now, before people get their wad in a tizzy about me saying you can wholesale a short sale, there's been a lot of stuff in social media about that lately, and there's a bunch of garbage that people are putting out there, pure garbage on it. Let me tell you what a short sale and a wholesale is. The definition of a wholesale is you buy the house, close on it, and then you resell it to somebody else later. You do not assign a contract in a short sale. Alex, it can't even be done. People that are talking about on social media, it's not even possible to happen because the title company has an approval letter that says the name of the buyer, and the title company is not going to close your purchase of it if the buyer's name isn't the one buying it. You cannot assign it to somebody else. It won't work. So that's garbage people are spreading out there. Okay. So the wholesale side is the normal way, which is, you buy it, close on it, and then resell it later. And you should do that in wholesaling, in my opinion, anyway. If I'm making $50, $80, $100,000 wholesaling any house, just forget short sales. If I wholesale any house in real estate, I'm making $50,000 or whatever, that should be a double close, because that buyer is going to see what you paid. And then on the day of closing, his wife is going to freak out and say, honey, you can't buy that house from him. He's making $50,000. So 2 hours before closing, your buyer who said he was fine with you is now not fine. So you should always double close those types of deals. And in short sales, you can do that, especially on FHA. Now, there's some exceptions we're not going to spend time on, but I'll just quickly say it. Fannie Mae has a 90-day deed restriction, okay? And we don't have time to go through that 90-day deed restriction, but you would have to wait 91 days before you did resell that on a Fannie Mae. Great question, Alex.
What states are you focusing on your short sale journey? And your students have done short sales. Is there particular states you're trying to shy away from, or doesn't matter for you? It's federal and there's laws in place.
Well, great question. The process of a short sale is federal, and it's identical across the United States. The paperwork and everything is identical. What's different from state to state, and that is whether it's a judicial state or non-judicial. So a judicial state means that the bank has to use a judge, an attorney to do the foreclosure process, and it takes longer. In a non-judicial state, okay, there is no judge, and they just have to file a legal posting for 21 days or 30 days. The process for short sale is identical in both those. The only thing that changes is the marketing letters. In a non-judicial state, you got to mail a letter every 3 days. In a judicial state, you might mail a letter every 3 weeks because the process is longer. So it's just your marketing that changes on it. So now, as far as what states are good states and bad states, you know what? I have not, I've personally got 13 I got one-on-one students that I personally have a relationship with, let's so to speak, in 13 different states. And it doesn't really matter what state you're in with it, because it's a question of the total number of delinquent loans that we have in this country and how the banks are desperate to get rid of those. Now, if you're in a state where the county, and it really goes by county, is in the top 15 counties in America for delinquent loans, then that just really sort of means you're going to be overwhelmed with way too many short sales. I'm in St. Louis, and I think we're like out of whatever 4,000 counties, we're like 2,000, we're like midway through, and I've got plenty of short sales here. I'm just looking for one per month. In my county, we've got over 200 foreclosures a month, and next month another 200, and then another two. And so, for me, I just want one this month and one next month. So it doesn't seem to matter a lot where you're at in this country, because there are so many delinquent loans in this country.
So you mentioned a very interesting topics. That do you approach people who in pre-foreclosure have notices, or who are already in foreclosure process?
Well, that's a great question. Pre-foreclosure and foreclosure, people have different definitions of what they mean. Let me try to define it this way. A homeowner misses a payment. Okay, no big deal, 30 days late. They miss a second payment, not too big a deal. When they hit the third payment that they miss, they go into a potential foreclosure status within the bank itself. So they got a process there, in essence, start to prepare documentation and communications with the homeowner, telling them that, hey, you've missed like 3 months of payment and you got to take some kind of action. And so internally, that's like a pre-foreclosure status. Now, publicly, there's nothing, and you have the general population doesn't have any clue. I do, but the general population doesn't have any clue about that. Okay. And so what happens then, when the bank's not able to resolve anything with the homeowner, then they will go to what's called a public posting. It's public because what they're doing is they are posting the name, address, legal description of that loan, of that property, in a legal newspaper in all counties. See, this is what I teach people in my online education portal that people have, is to go to the county legal newspaper on it. And I even go through that in my free 2-hour workshop I have, on how to find that county. And so in that county legal newspaper, the bank will then post that, okay? And that will have the date and the time that 21 or 30 days, each state's a little different, 30 days later, on the courthouse steps, the home will then be sold at auction to the highest bidder. So really all that is technically before pre-foreclosure. The day of the foreclosure, okay, when the bank takes the house back, now it becomes a foreclosure or foreclosed property, and the bank now owns it, and now it's a different world. You can't do a short sale. So you might say to people, I'm kind of doing what's pre-foreclosure, but the pre-foreclosure part that I teach to the majority of people is the one where the 30-day posting, public posting, was made, okay? And then you're reaching out to that person in that 30-day time frame. And of course, you can do it before the 30 days, but that's more advanced. The simple, easiest, low-hanging fruit is the homeowner that, after all these months and years of procrastinating, ignoring, making attempts, and failing, okay, it's now done, over with in 30 days. At that time, there's nothing else that they can do besides bankruptcy or a short sale, or actually sell the house. And so that's the place that we work, because they're super desperate. It's public. It's, if they're not on the DNC list, you can call them. You can tell them that it's public. They know it's public, and then you can tell them, hey, I can help you. I can help you postpone this. Don't say you're going to stop the foreclosure. Don't say you're going to postpone it. Tell them you're going to help them postpone it. You're going to help them stop it. And I don't like the word stop, because that means it never happens again. So I always like to say, hey, I can help you postpone the foreclosure. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. Please help me. And so that's how easy it can be in short sales. You're helping families out.
I think it's a real emotional touchy subject, right, for people who is in a pickle and they have the situation. Some people, try to pretend nothing happens. And from your experience, have you talked to any emotional people who definitely didn't want to continue conversation with you, and you just, hey, don't call me again. This is my problem. Don't I'm gonna deal with it. Or majority of the people are usually open to their problems and ready to take hand from a stranger.
That's a great question. So, one thing I want to say is that you are running a business and you are just looking for, let's say, one person this month. So, let's not worry about the other people that might be in a position where they tell you to go jump in a lake or they might not want your help. Okay, you're looking for the person that wants you to help them. Matter of fact, oftentimes when I'm on the phone, if they don't ask me how high to jump on the way up, I'm not going to help them. They need to want my help. I'm not going to try to convince them to save their credit, save their house, and save their family. In other words, I'm not going to try to bully them, lie to them, trick them, or anything else like that. Now, let's keep in mind, though, these people have reached this position financially due to hardship and poor decisions. Okay, some have had health issues, some have had divorces, some have done bad spending plans, and so they're not always thinking real straight. And so therefore, you do need to have reason, logic, and tell them, explain to them what's really happening to them, and then how you can try to help them. And so you do have to be a little forceful in that they understand that this date and time, it is all, you're not allowed to be in the house. You don't own the house at that point in time. And so a lot of times that's where they'll come back to reason and then ask you for their help. Okay. And some never will. Okay. And there's nothing that you can do for those people. You're just looking for the ones that want your help.
Yep. When the reality check kicks in with their mind, they probably, hey, maybe I should call back David and let's try to figure out how we can get out of this position.
Exactly. Look, it's really about know, like, and trust. It's actually kind of funny. Some of the best people in short sales that I work with are investors who have actually gone through hardship in their own life. They were previously foreclosed on. They previously went through a short sale. They previously had a divorce. Those people actually relate better to the homeowners and can get them to say, yes, please help me, because you can relate to them. They'll know, like, and trust you. Now, obviously, you better know what you're doing after they authorize you, after they ask you to help them. You better know what you're doing after that. But the point is, they're looking for someone that they know, like, and trust. And so, you can talk about helping this family out and this family. So there's a lot of things that you can do to build that rapport with a homeowner and stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. David, I want to ask you, over last 16 years, you probably flipped and bought short sale over hundreds of properties. I calculated roughly, right?
Right, yes.
What are the biggest misconception in this space about short sales? Why people shy away from this and don't really try it in their strategies?
Here's the number one reason, okay? And you can ask any real estate agent this and any investor. So this is why it's the number one reason. It's the same problem for all the real estate agents and the same problem for all the investors who try to do short sales without training, knowledge, or systems. And this number one reason is they'll all say to you, I hate short sales because they lose my paperwork. They lost my paperwork 3 times. I'm on the phone forever with them. It's a horrible process. I hate it. I hate it. Okay, let me tell you something, Alex. It's completely wrong. It's absolutely not true at all. The bank in 15 years has never, ever lost my paperwork. Here's why. The bank is a government-regulated financial institution. They don't lose stuff. Here's what happened, Alex. You agent, you investor that didn't know what you were doing, you submitted paperwork that was wrong. It was filled out incorrectly. You didn't know how to do it. And the bank is not paid to teach you on the telephone how to fill it out correctly. So they rejected your paperwork. Okay, they told you they lost it, but they rejected it. Okay, it was not lost. It's nearly impossible to be lost at a bank, right? They've got all kinds of systems. It was filled out wrong, and the bank's not going to teach you over the telephone how to fill out the documents correctly. Number one reason people hate short sales, and it's absolutely a reason that shouldn't exist, like I said, in 15 years, because I started out with training from other people at the time, developed my own, never had the paperwork ever lost in 15 years. Matter of fact, I've only personally lost 5 short sales in 15 years where I didn't get the house. Yeah, okay, 5 out of 15 years. And all of them were because I was not at the house when the appraiser from the bank showed up. In one example, the bank sent the appraiser out, and the appraiser came a day early, and the homeowner let them in the house. And I'm like, we just let strangers in your house? What do you mean? Well, he came yesterday. What do you mean? And so the guy walks into the kitchen and he walks back out and he turns in a price like $300,000 for this house. Okay. He didn't even look at it. And it was like, 5 days before the foreclosure date. I couldn't stop that because the guy had gone in, walked out, and turned in a price that was inaccurate. Okay. And stuff like that. So yeah, number one reason people don't like them is because they say they lose the paperwork. Not true at all.
And I think it's very important about appraisal, as you mentioned, in any business. Even when you flip house after you bought short sale, it's important to be present during the appraisal, because they're all humans, right? They can miss something, they can be rushed, can have a bad day, but you have to, make sure you walk through the house, make sure you show all the finishes, all the improvements that are done in the house, and all the bathrooms count properly, all the information is correct.
Well, hey,
Do
Alex,
you also
just let me finish what you just said, because some people might be saying, "Wait a minute, that's not right for you to be at the house. You're going to do something to that guy, and you're gonna influence. They're gonna say things like that." Let me correct those people, and let me add to what you just said, because you are absolutely correct. But I'm gonna back it up legally for you. Remember, I said I'm an engineer. Data, processes, checklists. I've developed them all. My students use them all across the country successfully and better than me. They're making more money than me. But anyway, the Fannie Mae regulations actually state, Alex, that I'm required by regulation to be at the house. I am required by regulation to be at the house. I'm actually in violation of the regulation if I'm not there. Okay. I found that 5 years ago, buried in the regulations.
So here you go, folks. Don't be shy. Get out there and be on your property. Represent yourself on the property. Make sure everything is noticeable. What you've done to the property and what you have there. I think every detail is important. And appraiser will tell you, listen, I don't need your help. I got this information correctly. Usually respectful and understanding. There's no harm of just being there.
Yep.
Now, David, I want to move forward, and I want to ask you about the market and outlook for nowadays. What do you see out there in terms of foreclosures, in terms of your strategy utilizing? How is it affecting the current market, affecting short sales? Do you see more short sales because the interest rates difference? What happens with the market and more people are not able to pay their mortgages? Do you see more opportunities?
I'll tell you what, we have got this huge backlog from 2020 during the COVID moratorium, where for 18 months people didn't have to make their payment, and they've never been able to make that payment back up. They couldn't make the payment before COVID, more or less make up 18 months. Now, on top of that, we have this thing. Now, I'm not an economist. I don't have a degree, but have you heard of this thing called inflation? We had this thing called inflation. And what that means in the non-economic definition of mine is that you have to pay for your gas and your food, and you don't pay for your house payment. That's what happens in inflation. So we have a large increase, okay? A large increase in people missing 30, 60-day late payments. In other words, those are increasing, okay? Over 12% of all FHA loans in America are delinquent. 1 out of every 10 houses that had an FHA loan is delinquent. That's absurd, okay? And so it's rising and it's getting higher, okay, because of the inflation that we had. Now, something that you may have heard about, we had this presidential election recently. Do you remember that? Okay. Well, the new president, okay, he shut down the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He shut it down. It was the only governing body that was preventing the banks from foreclosing. The banks had to follow those regulations to the CFPB since July 1st of 2021. The CFPB put out 212-page regulations, and that was slowing down the foreclosures, okay? That CFPB was shut down by the president. It's no longer able to pursue the regulations and enforce them anymore. And so now, what do you think the banks are doing now? Okay.
Wow, the floodgates open.
At will. It's called shoot at will, fire at will, fire at will. Well, the military term, the banks are just going to be able to fire at will. You know what I mean? And so they're going to be able to, foreclose, based on their own timeline and schedules that they need to do with it. So I think that the 2025 and on is going to be phenomenal. From when that CFPB was shut down, in 2025. So I think it's going to make a huge increase. And so people need to get out there and help families out.
But isn't it bad that going through foreclosure right away, it jumps to foreclosure process? It was stalling and now it jumps to foreclosure. Aren't you doing short sales before that official stuff, or during the foreclosure you can step in and basically pause it, right?
Yeah. So like I said, I teach everybody in the basic online education portal to go to the county legal newspaper where that home is being publicly posted with the name, address, legal description that says in 30 days it will be sold at the courthouse steps to the highest bidder. We, at that point, reach out to the family. They authorize us. We call the bank and we postpone, stop the foreclosure date. It's now gone. Okay. Now the short sale process for 2, 4, 6 months takes place. That's exactly how we do it. We stop or postpone the foreclosure date. It goes away, and then you start on the short sale process paperwork.
And you just mentioned, Tristan, that average timeline on foreclosures 2, 4, and 6 months. What is your fastest foreclosure? What is your slowest foreclosure,
Well,
for example?
my slowest one was a couple of them at 12 months. And the reason was the homeowner had a child that was a senior in high school, and they didn't want to have to change high schools. So I dragged it out on purpose. I'm not living in the house. I don't care when I get it. And so I dragged it out. The quickest one was one I did recently, where I wanted to do Zoom recordings for my students. I wanted the whole process all the way through on a Zoom recording, not like pieces are here or there. I wanted one house, one deal, all the way through on Zoom. And so I did it fast in 2 months. I did the whole thing in 2 months. Okay. And that's very quick. I mean, I didn't dilly dally. I didn't skip a 2 week. I didn't skip a week. I responded immediately on everything. And it was 2 months and 22 hours. It's only 22 hours of work. Okay. On that. So 2 months is kind of like really fast, because you want to make videos. Now, here's the thing though. The problem is, I bought that house, and I could have, I bought the house for $58,000. I could have bought it for 42. I know I could have bought it for 42, but it would have taken another dispute and another 2 weeks of calendar time for a response. I couldn't wait. So I bought it for 58. I could have bought it for 42, but I needed the videos. Now, the thing is, I bought that house and I did a small rehab to it, like $30,000. So I had like 88 in it, and I sold it for $220. Public records, $220. So don't cry for me that I could have bought it for 42 instead of 58, right? And so 2 months. That's a case study. That's actually in my free 2-hour workshop that I have that your people can go to. We'll put that offer to them there, because they're going to want to learn more. And I've got a free 2-hour workshop they can learn about short sales specifically. And I actually talk about that case study, in that 2-hour workshop. But yeah, that's kind of fast, right?
That's impressive. Especially, it's important lesson here. It's not always about nickel and diamond, right? To save every penny, to get the best price of it, but the time is the essence. Sometimes you need to structure it so okay, it's going to take me this much time to flip the house after I buy it, and maybe it makes sense to save this 1.5 months before we go to winter when there's less purchases for the houses.
Exactly.
There's buyers, and now you're losing even more money on your sales price because there's less buyer pool.
Yep, you're experienced and you know what you're talking about, Alex. You're absolutely right.
Yep. Well, David, I have one last question for you. If someone wants to connect with you or learn more about short sales, what's the best place to reach you?
Well, when I love sharing this, I have fun on the podcast. I love telling people what I know, and there's never enough time. And so what I always like to do is make available a free 2-hour workshop that I do monthly. I do this every single month. And for your people, if they text the word intro, INTRO, intro for introduction, if they text that to my phone number, 636-685-2990, that'll send them a link to register for the next 2-hour workshop, and it'll be any charge. That's completely free. They can get on that workshop and they can get a lot more information. They can ask questions, and I kind of go through the process with them. And so that would be a good way. If you just want to see if I'm a real person or not, you don't want to, maybe you're not sure about that yet. Well, who is this guy? Well, then go to my website, okay, which is the David Randolph, RANDOLPH, thedavidrandolph.com. Now, why isn't it davidrandolph.com? Somebody took it, Alex. Someone stole my website, and I was heartbroken. And so someone said, but wait a minute, aren't you the David Randolph? Yeah, go daddy. Give me the davidrandolph.com. And so they can go there and get a lot more information, find out a lot more. They can get my lending document. Matter of fact, if you just text the word lend, L-E-N-D, lend to my phone, same phone number, 636-685-2990, you get my 4-page lending document. Okay. And I'll show you how I give you my contractors, materials. There's like 4 pages of stuff. It's unbelievable. Okay. You get all the money. So you can text lend and get that. And so I'm there to help people. I've been, lending to people. I want people to be successful. That's why I lend to new rehabbers. There's no credit score. They don't need any credit score at all. I want people to be able to get out of their day job and be successful like we have been, in the real estate field on it. And so I'm there to try to help you do that.
David, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I will be there. I will send you a message to it, and I'll be on that call for sure because I need to learn more now. And again, thank you for sharing. This has been a brief masterclass on short sales. Thank you for breaking it for us for such a details.
Alex, I want to thank you for what you're doing and coming in with your podcast and your training. This is a platform for people to help each other. This is about relationships, and we can't have a relationship, Alex, if we don't go through you and you help share us with other people. So I want to thank you, Alex, for what you do for us in this industry.
Absolutely. Your network is your net worth, right? That's why you communicate and you're coming back and you have the stories to share. And this is great. Well, that's a wrap. And for everyone watching, don't forget to like and subscribe for more valuable episodes. Keep moving forward. See you next time. Bye, David.
Goodbye.